Hi, I'm Rena, and I'm one of the most popular girls in my high school. I'm the top in my class, and all the girls are jealous of me because boys are always trying to flirt with me. But they can try their luck. I'm not the easy type. But I have a little secret. I work as a maid at a maid cafe as a part-time job to support my family. My dad was a jerk. He left us when I was 5 years old to be with another woman. Since then, my mother was the only one supporting me and my little brother. She had to work very hard to keep the food on the table. I wanted to help my mother. That's why I started this job. We have to dress in pretty costumes and act cute to please our customers. It's not an easy job, let me tell you. Men drool over you fantasizing about you in that costume. Yuck. Well, I didn't mind it. If only the young hot ones flirted with me. Actually, I enjoyed that. But I kept my job a secret because, come on, who wants to be exposed as a maid and teased by the whole school? Until one day, we had a pink day at work. We had to dress in super sexy maid costumes, and they had to be pink. I was feeling myself in that costume. I was sure I'd get many tips, so I could buy my mom a present for her upcoming birthday. But suddenly, I saw him sitting there on the table, at the corner. It was Jordan, the hottest guy in our high school. He was this new rich kid that transferred to our school. All the girls were going crazy for him. He looked at me, shocked. I froze. He saw me in a super short dress and as a maid. Jordan's shocked face suddenly turned into an evil smirk. He waved at me saying, "Hey, hot maid, I'd like to make an order." That jerk! He was making fun of me. I walked slowly towards him and stood beside him. He was checking me out. I wanted to slap him in the face, but I said in a cute voice, "Yes, sir. What can I get for you?" I was screaming inside, but I had to act cool, or otherwise the manager is gonna fire me. Then I heard him saying, well, who knew that the most popular girl in school is actually a maid? Not any maid, a hot one. Then he had that creepy smirk on his face. He continued, "I assume that you want your little secret to stay hidden, right? If you want me to keep my mouth shut, then you'll follow my orders from now on." I didn't have a choice. I couldn't risk my reputation at school and lose my job because of that jerk Jordan. That's why I said in a low, soft voice, "Yes, sir, I'll do whatever you want." Then he stood up and leaned close to me and whispered in my ears, said, "Good girl, I'll see you tomorrow." That Jordan jerk, who does he think he is? I have to follow his orders now. Maybe he'll make me his personal maid. I got home that day tired and went to sleep early so I wouldn't think about him, nor what will happen next tomorrow. When I woke up in the morning, I found a text from Jordan saying, "Bring your prettiest costume with you. You got some work to do today." That walking, talking garbage! I'll slap him right in the face! I went to school nervous, afraid that he's gonna expose my secret in front of everyone. But luckily, I didn't see him the whole day and nothing bad happened. But when it was time to go home, I saw him at the school gate, waiting for me. He waved and said, "Here's my pretty maid. Ready for your job? I got some cleaning to do at home. Will you join me?" Of course, I couldn't say no to him, so I just nodded. Suddenly, a big fancy car pulled over and the driver got out of his seat to open the door, and he said to Jordan, "Sir," and held the door open to him. I was shocked. I knew that they were rich, but I didn't know that they were filthy rich. We were in the poorer side of Los Angeles, and his car was huge, and we sat together in the back seat. He sat close to me and put his hand on my thigh. At that moment, I didn't feel angry. I looked at his face, and he was really handsome. This was the first time that I noticed that he has really muscular arms and a really strong chest. I just couldn't stop thinking about what kind of orders he's gonna give me. When we arrived at his house, it was a huge mansion near Hollywood with a big gate. Wow, they're really filthy rich! We stepped out of the car and he took me to his big room. There he asked me to change into my costume. I changed in the bathroom, and when I got out, Jordan was sitting on the couch with his shirt half buttoned so I could see his muscular chest. He looked at me with that flirtatious smirk on his face and said, "Oh, here comes my maid. I'll try not to be tough on you today since it's your first day here." Then he asked me to bring him some ice from the fridge and put some in his drink. I did as he asked, but I was leaning to put it in his drink. He grabbed my arm and said, "Hey, let's see if the ice tastes any different when it's not in a drink." Then he sat me on his lap. It was so cold, but I didn't mind because he was staring straight into my eyes. He was so handsome that I couldn't resist him. Then he pulled me softly by my hair and said, "There she is, my good maid. You succeeded in your first task. I should reward you." This went on for a while, until his ex-ho girlfriend showed up. Her name was Angela. She's from the same town that Jordan came from. She was also hot with long black hair. She kept staring at me the whole time and following me around. I didn't know what she wanted until one time she grabbed me by the arm in the bathroom and said, "Listen, you little hoe, I know what you've been doing with Jordan. I should warn you, leave him alone or I'll expose your little secret to the whole school." I was shocked and super angry. Did he tell her about me and about my secret job after all I did with him? I wanted to know the truth. That's why I went to his house before he got home. But what I saw there left me in shock. It was that hoe Angela dressed as a kitty cat, lying on his bed with her phone. I screamed at her, "What are you doing dressed like a stupid cat, you fatty?" She screamed back, "I told you to leave him alone. He's mine, you pig." I jumped at her, trying to rip her stupid cat ears off, and then she grabbed me by my hair and pushed me back. I couldn't believe it. She needed to get a life. As we were fighting, Jordan entered the room with his shirt off. We stopped for a moment to look at his hot body. We heard him saying, "What are you two doing here?" I replied, "I came to surprise you, then saw this hoe pretending to be attractive." She grabbed my hair again and said, "Shut up, loser! You're not supposed to be here. I'm the one for him." And we continued fighting, and Jordan stood there looking at us with a smirk on his face and then came closer and said, "Girls, there's enough of me for you two. No need to fight." He clearly enjoyed seeing two half-naked girls fighting over him. After that day, my relationship with Angela got better. We became, I guess you could say friends. Frenemies. We started showing up at Jordan's room at the same time, and we even sometimes went there to sit and watch TV together. Everything seemed good until one day Angela said, "Hey, don't you sometimes wonder what Jordan keeps in this big room? Let's take a look." I was also curious to know. That's why I agreed and started opening the drawers and looking around. We found a lot of stuff in there. Different, attractive costumes, women's underwear, and also provocative male costumes. Wow, so Jordan also enjoyed wearing costumes? Why didn't he wear that stuff around us? Then we decided to check his MacBook. Well, if you were us, you'd also want to know what a hot guy like Jordan keeps in there. His laptop was without a password. It wasn't locked. Wow, he really thinks that no one can touch his stuff? We found one particular folder with a weird name. It was named My Slaves. With peach emojis? That's interesting. Slaves? Who does he think he is? We immediately opened it, and you wouldn't believe what was in it. That jerk! He has videos of me wearing different costumes. And one of me and Angela, when we're doing all that stuff together. He was filming us the whole time. And we found out more shocking stuff. A video of him in a costume with a guy. Why was he filming all that stuff secretly? Is this his secret guilty pleasure? Or was he planning to blackmail us? At that moment, we knew what to do. Well, of course, we enjoyed being with him since he's very hot and charming, but filming us in secret, that's a douche move. We copied all of the videos on a USB drive and deleted every piece of evidence on his laptop. Then we sat there waiting for him to come home. When he arrived and saw us there, he said, "Here are my beautiful ladies. Did you miss me?" Then Angela replied, "Oh yeah, we missed you, and we'd like to see you in a costume too. Why don't you change? You have a lot of them." The look on his face changed suddenly, and he said, "What do you mean? I don't do costumes." I smiled and said with a soft voice, "Oh yeah, I thought you were into them and into boys too. Why didn't you share your little secret with us, you slave?" Jordan froze right there. He couldn't say a word. He knew that we discovered his little secret, and we could make him do whatever we want. I came closer to him and whispered in his ear, "So I think I might need a handsome maid now. What do you think?" Jordan screamed, "You little!" Then I said, "Watch your language, pretty boy." I have to admit, it felt good to have control over him. He can do whatever I want. Angela and I became really good friends, closer than ever. We enjoyed bossing him around. It's kind of fun to control others who have tried to take advantage of you. As for my job, I quitted. I don't need to work there anymore. Jordan buys me whatever I want, and he even gives me money sometimes. Life's good after all. Another day in sunny California.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and the reason I'm still alive today is because of my mother. After you hear my story too, you might think I don't deserve the life my mother gave me. Well, sometimes I think so too. It all began since I was a little child. I was born with kidney problems, and I always had to go to painful treatments just to stay alive. With time, life was getting harder, and I can't tell you how often I just wanted to give up. Despite my struggle, I wanted to enjoy the little things in life like any teenager, especially that I didn't know how much time I have left. I was determined to use every second. You see, my parents didn't understand that, especially my mother. I had to argue with her before I could do anything. She was always afraid something bad happens to me because of my malfunctioning kidneys. I wasn't allowed to go on long trips with friends, no camping, no parties, and no sleepovers. Basically, I was sick, and my parents made my life even more unbearable. With time, the relationship with my mother became very complicated. I would get 20 calls from her a day, asking me where I'm at, how I was feeling, and if I took my medicine. Most of these phone calls would end up with a heated argument. I felt like a prisoner that is being watched, and all I wanted was to be alone. I was 17 at the time, and having your mother on the phone all the time was pretty embarrassing, to say the least. You might think that my mother was trying to protect me, but the truth was, my mother only acted that way out of guilt. While I was waiting for a kidney donor, I always knew that there's a high chance that my own mom would be the perfect match. Even though many of the people I know got tested to see if they were qualified, my own mother never did. It was a touchy subject. I mean, you can't just ask people to give you their kidney, but I did try to bring up the subject multiple times when I was with her. However, my mother always brushed it off and never really gave me a clear answer. Because of that, my mom had no right to tell me what to do or act as if she cared. For all I knew, she just wanted to ease her feelings of guilt, or that's what I thought. One day, there was a house party that I was dying to go to. I knew that my mother would never approve, and there was no way I could miss it. So I planned to go without telling her. After school, I told her I'm staying over at my friend's house to work on a project, and my plan was to stay there and go to the party after. And that's exactly what happened. I wasn't going to let my mother ruin my mood, so I sent her a text saying that my phone was about to die and that I'll be home late. Samantha and I went together, and the party was booming. There were music, dancing, and even alcohol. Most importantly, Jacob was there, the boy I had a crush on for ages. When I saw him, I went up to him to say hi. He looked so handsome. He welcomed me with a smile and gave me a hug. Jacob then asked if he could get me something to drink. Because of my condition, I wasn't allowed to drink alcohol, but I couldn't really say no to Jacob. He got me a bottle of beer, which I kinda just held in my hand and took really small sips. I was enjoying the party so much that I forgot about the time. I knew my mother would be upset, but at that point, I didn't really care. Standing there with Jacob at that moment was the most fun I had since a long time. I could tell that he liked me the way I did. We were flirting, and there was definitely an attraction between us. I knew Jacob wanted to kiss me, and I was waiting for it. We were close to one another, and with every second that passed, I felt him getting closer and closer as he was staring into my eyes. Eventually, I knew it was time. I closed my eyes, and I waited for the kiss, but it never came. I opened my eyes and saw Jacob looking in the other direction. He then turned to me and asked, "Is that your mother?" My jaw dropped. She was there, standing behind Jacob. When she came closer, my mother could see that I was holding a beer, which made her go crazy. She started screaming at me in front of all my friends. I could not believe what was happening. She said that she kept calling my friends until one of them told her I was here. She grabbed my hand and started walking towards the door. I had enough. I stopped, pulled my hand back, and told her she can go home alone. My mom seemed to understand that she was acting crazy, so she tried to trick me by asking me nicely to go home with her. But there was no way. I was not going to let her control me anymore, and she was ruining my chances I have with Jacob. I looked at her and said with a loud voice, "If you're so worried about my health, why don't you just donate a kidney to your dying daughter?" My mom froze. She wanted to say something but couldn't. I told her if she's not willing to help me, then she should leave me to enjoy whatever I have left of life at least. My mom looked as if she was going to cry, and she just responded with, "Okay." As I saw her leaving, I couldn't hold my tears. I knew that I had hurt her feelings. Jacob came up to me and asked me if I was okay. Well, I wasn't. I was feeling horrible. I asked him if he could bring me a drink, and this time I took a larger sip. I was starting to feel better, or so I thought. The next morning, I woke up in a bed that wasn't mine. I looked around. Everything was blurry. I was in so much pain. I felt a hand holding mine, and I heard my mother's voice. "Everything will be okay," she said. "You need an urgent kidney transplant, and the doctors found a donor." I don't remember much from when on, but when I woke up after that, I was out of surgery with a new kidney. It took me a while before I understood what was going on. I was under the influence of drugs, and I kept falling asleep. I'm not sure how much time passed, but when I regained my consciousness, my dad told me that my mom was the kidney donor. I was a bit confused, but also thankful. This was the moment I had been waiting for my whole life, and all I wanted to do was to hug my mom and thank her. I asked my dad how she was doing, but my father was silent. He said that I needed to rest and everything will be okay. My heart started beating fast. I knew something was wrong with my mother. I asked my dad again how she was, and I could see that he was trying to hold back his tears. I immediately started to cry, and I kept repeating my question. Eventually, my father told me that my mother had passed away. I was quiet for a few moments. It can't be. How could she die? She was just with us. My father then explained that my mother knew she was an eligible donor from the beginning, but the problem was that the doctors told her that her body might not be strong enough, and she could risk her life. She then decided to wait for another donor, but when things seemed hopeless, she chose to give me her kidney without my knowledge. She was sure that if I knew it would risk her life, I wouldn't accept it. It was her choice, my father said. She couldn't see you suffer like that any longer. I wasn't ready to hear that answer. I couldn't believe how selfish I was. I wished at that moment to go back and undo everything. I didn't want my mother's kidney. I wanted my mother. Years passed. Until this day, the guilt I feel is unbearable. If you're watching this, please make sure you make your mother feel appreciated as long as you have the chance to do so.